Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for all you do for us, Lord, for being here among us. And Lord, we just ask that you touch the people in this room tonight. We thank you for our people that are so willing to serve, my colleagues here and Dr. Smith and our administration, Lord. And we thank you for our parents and the people that support this district, Lord. We pray that you'd strengthen the families in this district, Lord, and as you in Jesus' name, amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our first item of business would be the chair approval of the agenda, the approval of the board meeting minutes for December the 9th, 2024, of overnight field trips, and the approval of the check registry. The chairman's report, or the consent agenda, I'm sorry.
I make a motion we approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Have a motion?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Powell. A motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Any opposed? Thank you. It's unanimous. Our next item is the superintendent's report. Dr. Smith.
Thank you, Chairman Rollins, and I want to welcome everybody to our board meeting tonight. Want to start with a special recognition. We do this every month, but we rarely ever focus on you guys. So I want to spend a few minutes honoring our school board. January is National School Board Recognition Month, and you know we do not have a meeting in January, so I did not want to miss this opportunity to tell you all publicly thank you for all the tireless hours. I'm not sure people realize how much time it takes to be on a local school board. It is a wonderful part of our American democracy that I love. It's at the lowest level, and local control is a good thing. And you 9 folks freely give of your time. There's zero compensation for this. So yeah, you get all this for the big old paycheck of nothing. And there are school boards across America that are paid time. Matter of fact, you spend your own money to be elected, so that you, children, and our parents, thank you for a tireless job, a noble job, a worthy job. I can't think of a better way to spend your time than making decisions that positively impact the lives of children, hundreds of staff. So from the bottom of our hearts, we say thank you, and we have a very small token of appreciation in front of you. One of our staff members makes these beautiful wooden charcuterie. I don't know. Yesterday, I was walking my dog. It was 75. I was sweating, and it was in shorts. Especially as we look, as you'll hear from Mr. McCraw later, with the building plan. I mean, just all the hours, the phone calls, when a constituent gives you an issue, y'all are always very faithful to follow up on those issues, and that's how we best can serve our.
And so is the artwork session. Our next item is the instructional report. Mrs. Jody Wright.
And our hard-working students are doing. I'm going to kind of start us off by showing some winter formative assessments. I kind of wanted to give you an update, like where we are. And as we look 3 times a year. And so we use assessment. It actually has a personalized pathway up to about 50 minutes per week. I did on iReady, you can see some can-dos, what they're doing really well that we could better do. We would love to hear from you. So as I get, and it was given in December, so that's a half of the mark. That means we have a whole half of a year to go. And this is our formative assessment. It's different than SC on standard. The 3 times a year are in the fall, around August to September, and winter, it was the month of December 2nd through the 13th. Spring, we will do this again, so we hope to even see better scores from March the 17th to the 28th. And so I'm going to get started kind of showing you a little bit. So this next slide, as you can see, and I want us to look at this kind of deeper at first. I'm going to first start off with talking about mathematics. And as we look at mathematics, before we do, I want to explain the colors. Yellow, kind of caution a little bit. We've got some work to do. And red, we're not at the mark. But I'm going to talk about what those mean a little bit more professionally in December. The lighter kind of a mint green, I guess, or just a lighter green there, is early on. That's just early on grade level. The yellow is 1 grade level below. So if you were in 3rd grade, you mathematics. The pink shade is 2 grade levels below, and then the dark pink. So this slide that you see right now is just looking at the district's placement as a whole, as a district. So as we look all right, we're going to go right to left instead of left to right like we usually read. But we're going to go all the way to the right, and that is our district, and that's our population up there. All students take it. And so we don't next bar to the left says SCYTD. That's South Carolina, that we can adopt and that the state will reimburse us for the assessment part of it, not the pathway and toolbox that I described before, but for the assessment part of it. And so like when we really just had MAP, STAR, and iReady. But there's some other choices out there that, we could always look at. But right now, we are enjoying looking at this. Teachers are used to it. I hear great feedback. So when we look at the South Carolina, back to that, year to date, and the South Carolina year-to-date populations include 4 million, and then first bar to the left is South Carolina year-to-date. Then it's national year-to-date. How nationally right now is referenced based on winter 22-23. Okay? That's when the norm was different. So as you look at these, you'll see how we compare. So in green, just doing some quick numbers, remember they're already on grade level. That's what it's telling us. Now, it don't sound to grade level. We still have a whole nother half of a year. So this kind of shows you how we look nationally. When we take and compare to that, and we have scale scores that once we decide students' names, go deeper in it, see who those students are, and then we can look at the score that they're scale score number they'll give you, and then you can compare it to SC Ready scale score. So kind of looking at, you can go deeper and deeper, but I'm going to stay on the surface today just for for time, and we can get deeper at another time too, just looking at it more and more as time moves on. See it right now as we move here to math, we're going to look at grade levels. We're going to look at 1st grade and 2nd grade. Right now, that's our 2nd mark here that we have. You can see our 2nd grade is at 36%. They are already in the green, and that's way above all the comparisons. And then our 1st grade is a little bit lower, but with South Carolina year to date. We know areas that we have to work on. I'm going to talk tonight about a lot of the glows and say some glowing remarks, but I also know that we have work that we're always looking to do. One of the things in mathematics as we look at with some of our work that we have to do in math is we're going to adopt a new core curriculum. And we're going to need your help in, proving that with us. And always having a strong core tier 1 is super helpful. So we always know that we can grow there. So I just kind of wanted to mention that as well. As we disaggregate the data, like I talked about before, we look at all the subgroups. We will go in and we will look at how our special needs population is doing. We will look at MLLs. We will look at all kinds of different subgroups and pull them out and really look at them and just to see, do they need an extra intervention step? What's going on? What can we do? We do find, like I said, that a lot of our RED students typically do have an IEP and do receive some extra support there. But not always are they the IEP students. It's a mix. My next slide here that I have is, whoops, I think I went the wrong way, didn't I? I apologize. Now, here's where this really is where we correlate it to SC Ready. Because SC Ready starts in grade 3 and 4 and 5. This is mathematics here. You can see, look, our third grade looks really good. Our third grade as a district is sitting in the green at 43% compared to the national norm of 34%. We are rising and doing better in our fourth grade. We're currently doing a pilot with one of the approved adoptions. We went ahead and spent just a little bit of money to pilot it so that we could kind of talk to you about our results later, right before we go into our adoption, if that is selected, and so that we would know what we're doing. Our fourth grade is one of the areas that we've worked hard in our test scores and bringing those up. Also, if you look at fifth grade right there, 51% are in the green. That's very significant compared to 39 at the national norm. And I mentioned green a lot, but we can't forget the yellow. And I want you to notice another point too, another trend before I move on to the next slide. Our reds are lower, and we're very proud of that. Our reds are lower. We don't want our students 2 or more grade levels below. And we're proud of that nationally, how we're looking at every group. We're looking at all of the bars. We're looking at all of the colors, not just how our high-achieving students are doing, all students and how they are doing. This is our middle grades, as you can see. So as we look at those, you'll see a wonderful jump there in 6th grade. You can see that 52% in the green there. And the lower reds are so important. They really stand out nationally, the lower red groups. You'll see 8th grade is at 43% compared to the 32% in the greens there, as well as 7th, 10% above the national norm already, and it's just mid-year. That ends our mathematics. I'm going to show you reading now. And as we look at our district here, the rigor of the core ELA curriculum has shown us some gains in some certain areas. So as we look at how we're doing across the board, we really do mimic what we see in a national norm right now. We are a little lower than the year to date in some of the areas, but we are higher, of course, than South Carolina year to date. But that's the overall district comparison, but I always like to make sure that you see it broken down a little bit more than just the district. Now, kindergarten pops up. So the assessment is required for 1st through 8th grade in mathematics and reading, but kindergarten is required for reading. That helps us compare to our readiness, to our state readiness, and helps us see what we're doing there, because we know that that's what our main instruction is with our K-4 programs, is getting them literate and ready. So as we look at those, we start in kindergarten, and we will see that our district is at 55%, where our national norm is 60%. The national year to date is we're right on track with it, but we're a little bit lower than the national norm. You'll see that in 1st grade too, just to be honest with you. You'll see, and you'll look there at the green, and it's lower than the national norm as well, and a tiny bit lower than the state. I'm going to talk about just a few of the reasons why I kind of think that is in just a minute as well. In 2nd grade, you'll see the national norm is 47, South Carolina's 42, but we're at 43% in the green. So one thing I do want to mention is kind of how, Spartanburg 1 has always led everything in literacy. And so back when the Palmetto literacy schools were identified, they were identified based on poor performance. We did not have any poor performing early childhood schools in our district, which we were very fortunate not to have. So other districts did, other districts in Spartanburg County, and of course throughout the state. So the state sent a coach from the state to help them in that journey of doing better. And so those trainings were letters training, the science of reading waved in. So we did not receive that training, but yet our standards have started to change. So a little bit, I think, of what we're seeing is in kindergarten and first and in second, we're getting used to teaching more phonics and phonemic awareness in our early grades. And we're looking for, as teachers, a fine balance of that. And they are working hard at that. So I think that the letters training is going to help a lot as we go through that. So I just kind of wanted to talk about that, something that we're currently working on. But I'm very proud of this next slide, and this is one of the biggest glows I want us to see. I don't want you to forget that in third grade, if you'll draw your eyes to those bars right now, look at the green and third grade last bar of the district. And that is an important note to make because in South Carolina, we have the Read to Succeed law that has mandatory retention. And so on it, if the child is not on grade level, we have to retain them. And in some places, you know, some places are in a pickle when it comes to that. You know, just to be honest with you, that's a lot of students that you would have to retain. And we know it's not best practice to retain a whole lot of students. But in Spartanburg 1 right now, half the year, and we got half a year to go, we are at 60%, y'all, in the green. Woohoo! Shout out to the teachers. I mean, I have to do that. I'm so proud of them. I mean, just big shout out to the teachers and the hardworking students and the parents, you know, who rise to the occasion and know that, you know, takes a little extra push, a little bit extra reading at night in that grade level to make sure that we get there. And boy, do we ever. So I'm very proud of the teachers and the students, how hard they've worked there. Fourth grade, as we see, we're at the South Carolina year-to-date mark. Not as high as our third grade. We see this, you know, I'm constantly doing research of my own in grade 4 and doing a pilot for math and looking at it and looking at NAEP scores, you know, and just looking across the nation at what is that fourth grade slump. But we do see it in our district some too. And so I think we might have just worked them too hard in third grade. I don't know. But we are seeing a slump seriously that we continue to strive to do better there with. So fifth grade, you'll see it's up. It's higher than the South Carolina year-to-date, a lot higher than the national year-to-date, but just right at a little bit under the national norm there. And this group here will be taking SC Ready. And this next slide will be taking SC Ready. So this is our middle school here. This is 6th, 7th, and 8th at the bar here. And as we look at it, you can see as a district in our 6th grade, we're at 45%, which is more than the South Carolina year-to-date, national year-to-date, and national norm. In 7th grade, we're at 49%, which is wonderful there in the green. And as you can see, we decline in the red, which is very important for us. 8th grade was really unique because we have less than 1% in 2 grade levels below. But in 3 grade levels below, we have 28%, which is way lower than the South Carolina at 37% and national year-to-date at 38%. So we're still working hard to meet students of all levels, and that's so important. And I do want to say, you know, also that 3rd grade that I celebrated so big, I do want to do a shout out to our interventionists too, because they work so hard, especially in reading, to not have to retain for that Read to Succeed law. And you can just tell it makes a tremendous difference. But that is all I have. I tried to go as quick as I could because, you know, I could do kudos and shout outs and woohoos all night for our teachers and students. I'm so proud of them. Does anybody have any questions? Yes. Yes, ma'am. We see a big bump upward, an upward trend in March. So that will be March 17th through the 28th. And then we have all the way till May 1st from that March 28th, even though spring break does take a week from us, to do one more last final push which we usually do what we call booster groups and kind of help them boost into some skills that we see they still need just to help them reach that next level. So yes, we do see it. We see it to March and then to SE Ready.
And when you say you can drill down into this data, you can actually go, I mean, the teachers can actually say, well, this child's having trouble with CES or whatever.
Yes.
And then, am I right?
Yes, and yes, ma'am, you're exactly right. It's broken down into domains. So let's just take reading for a minute. That would be phonemic awareness, phonics, vocabulary. Then you have your comprehension of your fiction and then your nonfiction. And so you can break it down and it'll even make your groups for you. So like if you need to pull back at your small group table a vocabulary book group and just work with them, you can just go to town and it'll say what they can do already for you and the next steps. Go into your toolbox, pull up a lesson plan right there and work it on the toolbox, or giving them an assignment that said that they needed to work on vocabulary and kind of the level they do. You can go in and give them a virtual assignment to work on as well. So it gives you a teacher, one-on-one, and a virtual path for them, and math as well.
Hone in on what each child needs.
Yes, ma'am.
You are sharing that with parents.
Yes, ma'am.
They know what their child needs.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Well, the South Carolina state law says, and I keep going to the law, and it's just something I study all the time, I guess. But South Carolina law says that we have to give children 90 minutes of ELA instruction. And if they're off grade level, they have to have an additional 30 minutes. So the principals weave into their schedule an additional 30 minutes, which they call a lot of times win time, and they have different names for it. Focus time, y'all probably heard that language. So that's when the interventionist can pull. Sometimes the interventionists push in. So like if I was doing a vocabulary mini lesson, and then I needed to work with some students at my table to do some more specific vocabulary instruction with them to understand it, I could have an interventionist come in, push into my classroom, and take another group, because we could break out into small groups that way. So it can look a lot of different ways.
The students that are a grade level below or kind of right on the line, I know that we did have a program in the elementary grades previously where they could do some summer learning. Do we still have anything like that?
Our summer learning primarily focuses on grades 2 and 3. We've tried it for other grades, but we didn't have as much attendance. We always have an attendance issue. But interventionist parents who come out to the schools and ask about specific things that they could do over the summer, we always give them extra that they can do. We also have Countdown to Kindergarten, where teachers work with children from 4K to 5K to get them ready for that, and they do some literacy skills with them there. I know the law is changing a little bit, so we may be having summer camp for kindergarten through 3rd grade. We do camp for our 6th, 7th, and 8th as well, and that's just, according to their success. It's not for everyone. It's just those that need it. I hope that helps. Yes?
Found over the years that the 4th grade, where we were, our percentage drop was not as, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't up to what the others. Is that a recurring thing in 4th grade? Is that like another tier, if they're getting into that 4, 5, 6 block?
We've seen it in 4th grade since COVID, and I don't know. Since then, I've studied that trend, and it has. And we're seeing it rising back up. And what excites me is with HMH, the new curriculum that y'all approved, that's a strong curriculum. So we've saw a little bit of rise from last year this time. And then also in math, we've seen a significant rise.
Well, are you excited about the possibilities that AI and lesson planning and going to that block and typing in, this student is on this level, give me some lesson plans and materials that's going to help this?
Yes, sir. And I'm very excited about those tools, and I'm also excited that HMH has that already. A lot of teachers are experimenting with Amira that came with. I remember y'all saying, I'm so excited. I think it was you, Miss McDowell, that you were excited about Amira, and then Writable. Rideable is like another little coach. Summer Parsons, I'm going to do a shout out to her at Opie Earl Elementary. She's working real hard with that. But yes, sir, anything else that we can use, any other tools that will help make teachers be able to look deeper into what their student needs, make it faster so that they can have that face-to-face instruction, anything like that, I'm always sold on. So I'm very excited about that. It is. And that's why I wanted to shout out to parents too, because you can see we do a good bit of communication in third grade. We're required to send them letters along the way about their progress. And so that really has made a difference. Teachers have worked hard to not fall into the retention trap in Spartanburg 1. Well, thank y'all so much. Thank y'all for bearing with my excitement. I am, if it's okay, I do have another item on the agenda. Would you like me to just go straight to it then, if we don't have any more questions? Okay. I have you have in your board packet the 25-26 academic calendar. And just as you know, each year Spartanburg County hosts monthly meetings with superintendents. As part of their yearly task, 2 to 3 calendars are drafted for review. The drafts are shared with administrators, which in turn are shared internally with the teachers for feedback. Each county brings its feedback back to the meetings where the final calendar is voted on, and then it's respectfully shared with you. The 25-26 calendar is included in your board packet, as I mentioned, and we're recommending it for approval.
Can you remind me what the staff exchange day is, please?
Staff Exchange Day is when we have, and I don't know if we have it. Yes, we do. We have it on November the 3rd. That is for when staff have worked the registration day and came in already before their date that they had to come in, so they can exchange a day off in return. Yes, ma'am.
So all schools have that opportunity.
All Spartanburg County that I'm aware of, we do a lot of similar things. Not exactly, but we do it very similarly. Yeah, similar. Okay. Yes, ma'am? Yes, ma'am. It sure did. Yes, ma'am. It really did. We can plan to continue to do that. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And hopefully they can work in their rooms and meet families and things like that. Yes, ma'am. Any other?
One other thing, I know this doesn't mention it, but is it still the case that there could only be 5 e-learning days in the calendar year? Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the 25-26 agenda as presented, calendar as presented in our packet.
I'll second.
Motion and a second, any further discussion? Just one thing I'd like to put out there, not that concerns the calendar, but don't affect the calendar other than for the board. But if you notice, the Monday after spring break, there's a board meeting scheduled, and we'll see that this April as well. And we talked about it some earlier, don't need to move the meeting, do we? And talked about the possibility of the extra pressure that puts on the staff when they've been away a week and they have to come in prepared for a meeting. So just consider that, and should we need to take action in the future or
to the next week or something.
There's only 2 times all year that's problematic, and it's the second Monday in August. Guess what that is? It's the first day of school, and then the one in spring break. So it is something for us to consider. I think the second Monday works great, except for those two times in the schedule.
So we have a motion and a second. No further discussion. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Any opposed? It's unanimous.
Thank y'all so much.
Dr. Beeson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Dr. Smith, and board members. In your packet, you have the personnel report for this month. The first section that I would recommend for your approval is retirements effective at the end of the 24-25 school year, with the exception of one that is listed there. That is a retirement that went into effect at the end of December 2024.
I make a motion, we accept the retirements as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Davis.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Skinner. Got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Any opposed? It's unanimous.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I would ask that you approve the resignation effective at the end of the 2024-2025 school year as listed in your packet.
We have the recommendation to accept the resignation.
Mr. Chairman, I have had a loss here. I make a motion that we accept the personnel report of the resignations effective 24-25 school year.
Thank you, Ms. Ballard.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Any opposed? It's unanimous.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and board. And finally, I would ask that you accept the recommendation of termination as listed in your personnel packet.
So move.
All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Any opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you, Dr. Beeson.
Thank you.
And next, we have our policy report. Ms. Tessnier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Board of Trustees. Good evening. Tonight, we bring forth a number of policies for the first reading. We'll take questions or comments in the beginning if anybody has any.
Ms. Tessner, I have a couple of things.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see added. Let's see, I've got them out of order. Can I just give them to
Oh,
you?
please.
Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. On DJ, the policy, the conduct of all matters involving purchasing in accordance with district procurement code as developed by the district administration. I think we need to add that we're in compliance with state guidelines there because we do comply with state. I know we've got it. You agree, Lacey? I think.
Yeah, because we did adopt the state model code.
Yep. Yeah, that's fine. It's just a couple of words that
Okay.
okay, I've got, let me get over here again. Okay, on DKC,
Yes, ma'am.
which is, the superintendent or designee must approve where you have staff travel, could you add all travel? All staff travel, just the word all? Or-
My only hesitation with that,
Okay,
and I probably need to go in and define travel. You know, it could be that I traveled to Holly Springs today
right,
in a district vehicle.
gotcha.
So I need to take another shot at
Okay.
that now that you've mentioned
And
that.
the only other thing I thought possibly, if you could add, the reimbursement rate is set by the state of South Carolina, statewide disparate regulations and the Internal Revenue Service. If you could put revised and adjusted each year in accordance with the Internal Revenue, where you're increasing, don't you increase the amount of reimbursement, just adding that it will be reviewed each year according to Internal Revenue? It's a fine, I know you do it, but I just thought, you know, if we could add it, or I felt like you would. I had just written it revised and adjusted each year in accordance with Internal Revenue guidelines or whatever, however you want to word it, but just, I felt like it needed to be in there.
Yes, ma'am.
And then, the other one, the last one is on the cash in schools, DM. All principals are to make deposits of school monies daily. I know that that's not happening sometimes, and that's a concern. School, money in the schools is a major concern of mine. And so I felt like that, and that when you go on down, you're talking about, they can purchase a deposit, a night deposit or whatever. Would it be possible, Dr. Smith, that since we are a centralized district, that we take on the authority to purchase those for the schools, since they limit, I mean, we're still at First Citizens, correct? Or all the banks at First Citizen, I mean, you're still using First Citizen, so we've got one in Lander, but if we could purchase those, and I don't know what the fee is.
I think they all have access to do that. There's a drop box that every school can go drop it at nighttime.
And that the district is providing then.
That's included as part of our.
Okay, you might want to, just let them know that, cause I don't think some of them know that they can actually do that. And then.
In our staff development that we had with the principals, 2 weeks ago, we hit this topic.
You did?
And,
Okay.
we did, but it's something we are addressing and working on.
I think sometimes they just may need to be reminded of what
Absolutely.
what we do offer to them.
Absolutely.
And on this, let's see, as soon as possible, and no later than the end of the school day, staff members in possession of cash shall turn any cash over, but could you put receipted in there? So it's, because the teacher, or whoever's taking that money should be receipting that, making a total, taking the cash to book whoever they're taking it to, and then it should be counted, so you've got two signatures there at all time. I just think the word receipted is a good term to use.
Receipted instead of proper accounting at the
Yes.
end.
Just get the word receipted in there somewhere, because they do have to receipt it, and they have receipt books or receipt whatever. Just a few words for me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just had a few,
Yes, ma'am.
and I think maybe Mr. Skinner, I'm gonna leave this one for you, because I know we talked about that. Under DI and DIER, the if applicables, I had a question about that. That's something we've added because will the audit firm not always provide us with a management letter, just if there is an
So,
issue?
as Miss Brady and I were going through the policies together, that management letter kept coming up. And she's like, we don't receive management letters. I said, oh, no, we do in the beginning. She's
Isn't
like,
that the first
she's like,
letter?
Jada, that's the audit engagement letter.
So what the auditors give us initially to start the process is an engagement letter, and it's just what they're responsible for, what they're gonna audit, so on and so forth. And then what they do is then they give us an audit, of course, an audit package when they're finished. The only time we receive a management letter is if we had some sort of significant deficiency or findings that, or maybe other issues that are not in the audit that they felt the board needed to be aware about. So,
But we won't always get a management letter.
Correct. So I felt
So
like
we
the
hope not to get a
Right.
management letter.
I, I felt like the policy was reading, you should be expecting one
A
yearly.
management letter, yeah.
And
Okay.
actually, that's the way it's written across every Spartanburg County school district.
Okay.
But we felt like the need to put in if applicable, because we didn't want you to think next December you're gonna be receiving a management letter, because that's not the case.
And
No, sir, we don't.
we don't, we
Could you
don't want
put
one,
something
but
like if such is issued, or I guess if
Sure.
applicable is fine, but I don't know, maybe a little
Yes,
more
ma'am.
descriptive for posterity. The same thing on DIE, yeah, so
Mhm.
if applicable.
I'll take it.
So,
Yes,
okay,
ma'am.
alrighty, and then, that's good. Mr. Skinner, you want to ask your question about the, while I go find my next
Yes,
one?
sir.
Because we had the same question.
I'll defer to Ms. Brady and Mr. McCraw, but I believe that Chapman High School does a third party. Landrum High School still takes that cash up.
We're definitely taking cash, or is that your question? Are we taking cash at games?
A third party.
Do we have a third party at sports games, say like football and basketball?
At Chapman, yes. At Landrum, it's school staff.
Okay.
And he just found that I think it's about the same cost, and it's easier to manage. That was athletic director preference.
If you have a third party taking up the money, do they give it to the principal or another staff
Ye-
member that
yes.
night of the
We
game?
still collect the money. They're just there acting as a staff member.
I've typically seen Mr. Michael Pettit, at the end of the evening, go there, receive the money, count it, and then,
Okay,
take
since
that.
the bank's closed late at night, where do they keep it at the bookkeeper's office overnight, or do they keep it and deposit it the next day?
Drop off.
They've been instructed to, they're supposed to put it in that night deposit box at the bank. And then they go back and get it the next day, and at that point, they'll continue their accounting process to deposit it.
Okay, thank you.
And then I had, on the same policy,
Yes,
DI, the funds of every school in the district will also be audited annually. Is that a new thing, or they audit each school annually, the auditors? Or who would do the auditing of each school?
It was in there.
Do audit, schools, at a certain level. They don't go out to the degree, I think, that you would think. We've talked about internally, now that I'm fully staffed, I think we're gonna start next year doing some surprise visits, so to speak. And I'm gonna have one of my staff members go out there and perform like internal audits. And kind of
Right.
what you're talking about, where
Yes.
they can trace the cash and look at the receipts and those types of things.
Right.
So that's something that we've been working toward for a while. But, because to be quite honest, the external auditors do not do that, and we feel like that's something that needs to be done, just to, as another check and balance.
So is
But
that,
to some extent, they do
They
audit.
do some audit, but not necessarily to the level that we're talking about taking it.
do they just do test audits or a test case here and there, and they don't really go like each school? So but if we put this in policy, the funds of every school in the district will also be audited annually. Is there anything in place to make sure that happens, or this will like, start that ball rolling, or you're, spot checks? But what it says is every school in the district will be audited annually. So that's what this policy is saying currently if we adopt it.
We are in a sense, the audit does audit every school, but they don't necessarily go out to the schools to pull that information. They test some things from the schools, but they don't always go out to every school.
Would this be an accurate statement, though, to put in our policy, the funds of every school in the district will also be audited annually? Or is that not accurate? I mean, that we're crafting the policy.
Because we're centralized, when you're saying most of the school records come to the district level, they don't handle a whole lot. There's just a flow there, and the district office is where it ends up. So if they find it at the district office, they're gonna revert back to the school when you're centralized.
A lot, some of the, yes, to answer your question, I think this does cover us. I think we're good at what we're doing. You made a really good point, thank you. Some of the other school districts in the state is not centralized. So what would happen at, I believe District 2 is not. So they, at their high schools, they take in the money, they write the checks at the school level. And so if that was the case here, then the auditor most definitely would go out to the school
Right.
and do some additional stuff. But since everything kind of flows up here and we're looking at all of it, this statement does cover what you're talking about.
So if they have an invoice, it's here in this,
Yes.
okay,
Yes,
all right,
yes, ma'am, we have
all right,
that.
thank you. And then last question for policy for me is, DN, school properties disposition. The superintendent will advise the board that certain property is no longer needed for public school purposes. The board may sell or lease school property, real or personal, whenever such property is no longer needed for school purposes. Should we add, I mean, isn't that in accordance with state law or something? Because don't you have to do, is it?
Yes, ma'am, that's
I know
why
it's-
all the laws are,
It's listed, but do we need to say that? Because my brother-in-law wanted to buy this, so I sold it to him.
the district must follow any other South Carolina Department of Education or district facilities management. I mean, we'll be glad to,
Is it Department of Education, or is it a state law to disperse? So maybe,
we'll
and
add in
is
the
that what
state.
the, I mean, if it's in there, I'm good. I just want to make sure it's clear as it can be, and that was my only other question, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Baker.
And I had one
Yes, ma'am.
additional question, Jada, on payroll procedures and schedules.
Mhm.
Under the second little portion there, except as provided below, the district pays all staff members. So should we just say the D1 employees, like district, like you, and above in blue, you wrote for employees of Spartanburg School District 1, and the only reason why I say that is because of our staffing. We use an outside staffing source, so would this be, like, we're not paying the substitutes?
Correct.
So all staff members, should that just say,
You just want it to mimic for all employees
yeah, where
of
you,
Spartanburg?
up at the top, you wrote for employees of Spartanburg School District 1. I feel like instead of staff members,
mimic-
because they're kind of sort of a staff member as well.
We can mimic that. Thank you.
Quick question for Lacey. Lacey, when you're training them, as far as these drop boxes, they do know to reconcile that money and prepare it before they drop it at the bank, and then they pick it back up. Okay, that's what I'm saying. I'm just checking, because that,
And then when they pick it back up, they would count it again.
yes, okay.
Any more questions? Yes, ma'am, thank you. We're getting there, slowly, surely. So,
Hey,
Mr. Chairman, at this time.
Section D.
Yeah.
Section D.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, we recommend the following policies for a first reading. DI, DIER, DID, DJ, DJR, DK, DKA, DKB, DKC, DM, DN, and the last one GBEBE. Once again, these are all first reading, and certainly can be changed between now and the second reading. So,
I'd like to recommend that we accept these policies for a first reading.
thank you, Ms. Mayor.
A second.
Thank you, Ms. Bacon. Thank you, Mr. Powell. Do we have a motion to accept the listed policies as first reading? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Any opposed? It's unanimous.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Board of Trustees.
Thank you, Ms. Tesnier. Okay, our next item is operations. Mr. Jason McCraw, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Dr. Smith, School Board. Long time no see, right? So I'm going to click on something. I'm also going to pass something out for you. So as you can tell, as y'all seen many things that I've passed out, that beautiful presentation, artwork not done by myself, handled by Ms. Tesnier, we'll change up for that. So let's give this one so you can see, and then we also have it projected on the screen as I like it in bullet form personally. So, over the last several months, we've been working together in several work sessions to talk about our future. And as you can see, Ms. Tesnier has put it up, kind of a pathway to our future. And what that looks like as our district continues to grow and evolves. And so there's some exciting times ahead for us. And we've taken several recommendations that you've all given us as we've talked about in board work sessions and different input that you've provided, as well as discussions that we've had internally. And so what you can see on your piece of paper or on the screen, whichever you prefer, is kind of a pathway that we want to proceed forward with that sets us up for many years to come here in District 1 as we experience exciting times of growth. People are moving to this area because we're great. Ms. Wright hit on a lot of the things that we do well. You guys know we celebrate a lot of achievements academically, athletically, artistically, and we're a great place to be. And a lot of people are moving here for the education and the student-centered education that we provide for the whole student. So just want to kind of go over this again with y'all. Y'all will see some changes from our last work session, if you notice. But we'll just kind of go through this. If you have some questions, we're not asking for any type of action tonight. Okay, we're just giving you this as kind of a thing to think about moving forward. But in March, we would like you to give us the authority to pursue these pathways as we talk about after tonight. So here in phase 1, you can see our plan is to limit school choice, all right, as well as limit out-of-district tuition. Some of these are already taking place. This is nothing new for us. Depending on the school, if the school is at capacity, all right, those are some items that we look at in determining if the feeder school, let's say that we had a middle school that was at capacity, then we would limit school choice and out-of-district tuition at those feeder schools that were feeding that middle school. So those are some things that we've looked at, things that we're currently doing that are no cost to the district. And those are what we really initially wanted to bring to you when we started months ago in phase 1, talking about things that are, in other words, free, okay?
something that would not cost the district. So that's phase one. Again, already living it, doing it. I know Dr. Beeson, Ms. Brooks, work on these things daily with phone calls from parents or grandparents as we try to enroll new students and as people move into our district. Moving into phase two, we're going to kind of start at the top. Okay, phase two, we want to build a new Mabry Middle School. We also want to build a new O.P. Earl Elementary School. As we've talked about in our work sessions, both of those schools are still occupied in building. We're occupying space that was built in 1954 and 1955. Those are two of the oldest schools that we have in the district. They have much that we need to repair. We just went through a great facility study that you guys allowed us to go through several years ago that provided us great input and results to help us steer down this pathway that you see ahead. So we would also like to build the New Prospect Elementary cafeteria, which we have talked about for several years, and also add those classrooms there, 4 kindergarten classrooms and 4 primary classrooms. As we do this, we're going to be required to redesign our car line and parking lot, and then we want to make sure that New Prospect, obviously, as you're over there completing all this type of work, that we want to make sure that they have new playgrounds and places for kids to enjoy outside play, which is vital to the success that we see in classrooms, is for those kids to have great outside play as well. And those are super important. We have made some great strides in that over the last couple of years, thanks to y'all and our capital plan, but still we need to keep that moving. Then moving into phase 3, all right, we believe that once we have a new middle school on the south end, a new elementary school on the north end of the district, it would be a great time for us to evaluate our in-district school attendance zones. Once those schools are built, we can look and see how the attendance is shaking out, because some schools, a new school is going to be very appealing to some students that are already using school choice to move away from those areas. So we're going to look to evaluate in-district school attendance zones before we necessarily tell individuals that this is where we're sending your child. I know that's been a point of contention for some of you in work sessions, and you know, we want to make sure that we communicate this and have plenty of time to let our families know what our expectations and possibly what those new attendance zones may be. Later on, obviously in phase 3, we're talking about raising the current Mabry Middle School, because we have a brand new one, and building a new Inman Elementary School at the current Mabry Middle School site. We want to obviously keep that piece of property there once we tear Mabry Middle School down to build us a new Inman Elementary School. That school would now become a K through 5th grade school. We've talked about that, which would then match our other schools in the district, because when we build a new Mabry Middle School, we're going to be taking the 6th graders out of New Prospect and Holly Springs, so that would leave only Campobello Grambling School that would not follow in the K through 5 model. Then in phase 3, would also like to add 4 kindergarten classrooms at Holly Springs and redesign that car line and parking lot as well. And then we would look to build a centralized transportation office and parking facility. We've talked about this many a times. We currently have 3 parking locations for our bus fleet, actually 4 if you count here at the district office. We park school buses and a few activity buses at Chapman High School. We park school buses at Campobello Grambling School. We park school buses and a few activity buses at Landrum High School, and we park the remaining activity fleet here at the district office. So we would like to build a centralized transportation office and parking facility. And then I know that's a lot, right? We've talked about this in our work sessions. That's a lot. That's a lot to accomplish. The likelihood of Mr. McCraw standing here and presenting another plan, slim and none, once we get beyond phase 3 for sure. But what we wanted to put out there, and you'll notice our arrow, is a possible path forward even beyond phases 1, 2, and 3. Some of those items that we've talked about, updates at Chapman High School, updates at Landrum High School, Swafford building projects, and possibly even a new district office or administrative office. As you know, you are in the oldest building in the district right now, 1944, and it's burned twice. We've talked about this. I know we've not had many guests previously in some of our discussions, but the average age of our building is 1968. It's the oldest in the county when you compare the other 7 school districts. So it is time. We're excited about, our one vision, our one future, and now how we can focus on this pathway to get some great things accomplished in our school district. So I know we've talked about this before, and I know each time we talk about it, there's a different set of questions. So unless Dr. Smith has anything else to add, I'd be open to entertaining questions.
I have one,
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
McCraw. I understood that the evaluation of the school attendance zones would be a front-end thing, and we moved it to phase 3. Can you explain what, I would just like to know the reasoning behind
Okay.
moving that.
Sure. We initially brought phase 1 as a no cost. And that was our vision. We wanted to accomplish a lot with no cost to the district in regards to, let's see what we can manufacture, movement of students from one location to another with no cost. And throughout our conversations, in our previous work sessions, I never got a unanimous feel that that was acceptable. And maybe I misunderstood the tone of the meetings, but never thought that that was an acceptable. Like there seemed to be a lot of heartburn and not sure or certainty along those lines. So we had a meeting administratively, and we just began to kind of spitball again, because that's what we do, because we want what's best. Just like y'all do, we want what's best as well. And Mr. Loso and myself sat in my office, and we pulled up Google Maps, and we took kids that live in Melvin Hill, okay? Students that live in Melvin Hill right now. I think I picked one of the last addresses on Melvin Hill Road. Those students, as we currently have, they're zoned to go where? New Prospect, Mabry Middle School, and Chapman High School. And so we looked and thought, man, we're moving Mabry Middle Schools to plan to some property that we own a little further even from where it sits now. And we just got to talking administrative-wise, and we thought, you know what? It's going to be kind of hard to sell this idea to parents to let them understand that really this is what's best. If we move attendance lines and we kind of influence the way attendance patterns should go. And what we thought would be best was, if we're going to sell these ideas, which I still think are important and I still think are right. I don't want you to think I've changed my mind on that, or none of us necessarily have. But we think once they have a new middle school sitting there at Mabry, it's going to make that, wow, your grandparents have lived here their whole life. They've gone from New Prospect to Mabry to Chapman, and now we're going to tell them they may need to go to O.P. Earl, Landrum Middle, and Landrum High. It would just make them understand, look, we've built these new schools. It would make that a little more appeasing to some of those, because I got the sense, and maybe I misunderstood, but the board work sessions we've had a lot more discussion over redrawing attendance lines than we have a lot of other things. So our thought was, let's get some of these projects going, let's build these new schools, and then we can evaluate those district attendance zones at that point in time.
I think what I learned from our work sessions is that I just don't feel like we have to be married to the implementation timeline with that. Because I think at first we just put a school year out there, which that was a starting point. But from just trying to digest the feedback from work sessions, I think what I learned from that is maybe it doesn't have to be the certain time that we thought. So we were more flexible to that. it is gonna behoove us to go through that process at some point, whether that process is on the front end or after the school is built. I think that's just what has to be decided. But we're willing to do whatever the will of the board is on that. Because after, as we've said many times, the attendance lines we have now are built off where the old Chapman High School and the old Landrum High School were located. And we just have to look at the best use of that. But I think from this, we're just open to ideas on that.
So I understand you guys have played around with the numbers a little bit, and you've looked at where the lines are and where people, but I would like personally to see, because we had talked about, I think, the last work session, do we need 8? You know, the original thing was maybe 4 classrooms at Holly Springs. Do we need 8, or is the population such, because the attendance lines are 50 years old, that if we redrew them, I just think it would be helpful to, in making a decision, to know kind of, even if we're not, you know, implementing it at present until after, like till phase 3, that it, to me,
Yeah.
in my process, that would be a front-end thing to know, at least roughly.
Yeah, we can still work on generating rough numbers for that.
I
And then, you
agree
know, everything will
with
be,
Debbie.
you know, like, we have Holly Springs on here. I mean, if we get to it and there's not needed, we're not gonna do it. We're just forward thinking that it could be a possibility. But at any point in time, if that doesn't need to be made, and I think you see that's one of the later projects, because we want to see how kind of this stuff pans out. Because I think some of this stuff, once we get going, it's going to take care of itself. But we could generate some numbers, and Jason and Josh have been working on that. So we could definitely start trying to pin down a little better estimate.
My thought was we all felt like it needed to be done. It was how to do it, grandfather people in, you know, that
I agree.
that we all agreed it kind of needed to be done because it's such old data.
That was the one thing that I had in my mind that was kind of clear to me. It was gonna give me a better picture, because when we're talking about like Tryon Estates, you got kids up there going to Chapman, and they should be. So I wanted to kind of see how that was going to affect everything. I
Yeah.
mean, I
We'll
think we're on
work
the
on
same page,
getting
Debbie.
numbers. I mean, that would not be a definite number for sure, because this is Jason and Josh Loso working on this. But we can come up with something that would give us a good idea.
Right. Even if it's, you know, the Power School stuff that you showed us the other night, where you can just do magic.
Well, it's a little more time consuming than just magic.
I understand that.
But what we could do is we could give you a map or map per a current attendance zone, and then a map of proposed attendance zones. What we would think would help alleviate some of that problem.
Right, and how that would
And that
shake
was
out
our
in
plan,
attendance
correct.
at the population of each school, how that would shake out generally.
Generally,
Just
yes.
rough numbers, that's all
Now that, and we had planned to do that. I bragged on Dr. Beeson as she gave y'all in the last work session a kind of a little spiral bound little
It was
pamphlet of
very helpful
information.
to have that.
You know, so
Yeah.
that was our plan, but we just met less than a week ago, so there's no way I could have possibly got that together for this. So that would be the plan, to present that, something like that, along with all the documentation based on square footage of buildings, how many students we think we ought to build them for based on population, what the demographic study says. All of that is coming. That was the plan for March.
My thought is we have that, the data, and I understand it takes a while to get all that together, but to me, it kind of, that to me is a starting point. And y'all have worked with it so long, y'all already, it's in your mind. I don't think we've seen as much as you guys have, and I
Right.
think I'm uncomfortable making a decision on something without seeing, well, how are these numbers really shaking out? And we know that Mabry something, you know, because of the shape of the building, something needs to be done. So but there are other things that I think, if I'm expected to vote on it, I don't have enough info.
And you mentioned Holly Springs and 8. Did you mean New Prospect? Yes. Okay, and if you remember in the last conversation we had, I talked to you about the boiler failure and how that was a 1 on the facility study. And so after many conversations with the architect, with Craig, with mechanical, and we believe that going from 4 to 8 is to remove those old 4 classrooms, which that came about from December, or actually October, until our last meeting just last week. So that was the reason from 4 to 8. So I wanted to remind you that. Holly Springs has always had 4 classrooms. We just said, you know, we kind of had possible quotations around those. But we've seen some things change. Population right now is currently fluctuating at Holly Springs. But what we don't want to do is make a massive improvement to a car line, an expansion like that. And while we're there, not to use our time and money wisely. Because there are some old parts of Holly Springs at any point in time that could fail as well. So we want to make sure, we want to be forward thinking. And I think that's the most important part for me and Dr. Smith. I'm not trying to speak for Dr. Smith, but we really want to be forward thinking in the decisions that we make, that people are not going to have to come in here in 5 years and be like, man, I wish they would have put 4 classrooms when they did this. Because I've said that out loud in here, right? Man, I wish they'd have put a new cafeteria at New Prospect. Because we wouldn't be having some of these conversations. So we want to try our very best to make sure that we're setting up this district for success in the future.
I think we were flexible with the school attendance zone because the projects at Mabry and Opie Earl and New Prospect have nothing to do with an influx of students. It has everything to do with 1954 and 1955, and the cafeteria is smaller than this room, and that the boiler could fail at any time. So for us, and when we were first in it, we thought, oh, we got to do that first. It made the most sense. But from listening, we're like, okay, is it paramount that that be number one on the list? And after we've took y'all's feedback and we thought through it, I mean, Mabry needs to happen, regardless of children coming or going. Opie Earl needs to happen, regardless of how many more or less students are coming. And then the New Prospect cafeteria, along with the boiler questions we have, those are projects that you know, whether you move lines or not, they need to move forward. So we were just trying to create some flexibility to give us more options. And that does, by time, it does let us see how things are, because I do think it'll be interesting when two new schools are built. How does it naturally pan out? Because when you build those schools, we will build them a little. I mean, we will not build them at capacity. That'd be crazy to do that. We will build for room to grow, and so that would open up some school choice opportunities. So, you know, just trying to provide as much flexibility as we can, but we can still get numbers for
Absolutely.
the next
And
time.
I think Dr. Smith said it perfectly. You know, New Mabry, New Opie Earl, the new cafeteria at New Prospect has nothing to do with the demographic study. It has more to do with the facility study and the condition of the building. What that allows us to do is to now give us a period of time, because we know this is going to take several years. It gives us more data to see longitudinally how we are growing. And maybe we don't need to adjust the lines like we think we need to.
Can I just say something right quick?
Yes.
If we do wait on the evaluate the attendance zones, I'd just like to ask that we consider the limit of school choice for students that do live closer to Landrum or do live closer to Chapman, so that they can still be allowed to go to the school that is the closest to the vicinity of where they live. For example, the golf course and where we are.
So great point. And that was part of, if y'all remember the initial conversation, the limiting of school choice from growing schools and feeder schools, okay? Well, right now, we're not limiting school choice at Opie Earl, Landrum Middle, or Landrum High School at all. And most of the people that are close proximity to Chapman are zoned for Chapman. Chapman's attendance zone is actually much larger than Landrum's attendance zone. So we would still allow, providing you met the other requirements that we require of you, we would still allow school choice at those schools. But good point. You have room. You have room.
It's all about space.
And we currently have plenty of room at Opie Earl, but again, it is one of the oldest buildings, but we have plenty of room at O.P. Earl. We have plenty of room at Landrum High School, and Landrum Middle. Sorry. Campobello Grambling is a school where we limit school choice currently.
I agree that we need to build Mabry and O.P. Earl a new school. I think if we could, before we do that, come up with some type of evaluation for the school zones, just for the public and people that had children in school that may be going to a different school. If we could get that message out to them and maybe even get some feedback from them, may be helpful to move forward with building the new schools. You know, I know you can't put a definite plan together right there, but give them some kind of idea to help them decide whether they're gonna be for it or not.
Well, again, the attendance zone is only going to increase for O.P. Earl, and it's only going to possibly decrease for Mabry Middle School. The fact of them needing new is just solely on the, I mean, I wouldn't say solely, but a large percentage on the condition of the school, those two schools. But we can prepare whatever that you guys ask us to. It will just take time.
I think
and
it's,
if you remember
important for us to, I mean, because we want to get a lot of momentum for this, and as much as we can keep the positivity up and the focus on the new buildings, I think we would behoove ourselves to limit any issues there may be with that. So I just think that's something we've got to monitor, because there'll be a lot of excitement, I think, in the community about doing this at the wisdom of the board, and especially when they're told that there will be no tax increase with it. I think there'd be a lot of positivity with that. But I just wanted to show to y'all we're flexible with that. We think it's something that's got to be addressed. It's just the timeline of it, I think, is open for discussion as we try to continue to generate positivity and the community getting behind the project.
I agree with everything that we're talking with. The tour of the current Mabry Middle School, the old Chapman former Chapman High School, and this, in addition to the 1954 and the construction, that tour opened my eyes to the large degree of danger, potential danger and safety that our students are in that building, and having to go outside and go into 4 different buildings, which they're targets for some nut. And they need, and that's the bottom line. That building, our kids are not safe, and the building is, parts of it, there's definitely a need. And to keep the momentum going, in my mind, and I know this comes from having been in the classroom and in performing arts, when I wanted all of the equipment that the other schools were having, and I would take my request, it was, well, maybe when you get the program built, you know, so I built the program in District 3, and I got 8 silver sousaphones. But when I asked for 4 to start with to motivate kids to come in, well, when you get the program built, we'll buy you the instruments. And I just got, that's the way it's been forever since I started here in 76 in District 1. Build your program, and then so being old school, it's hard for me to get over that, and it's difficult for me to answer questions that people out in the community have. Well, why are we building this, or why are we building this? I can't say because the numbers demand this. It's kind of like the cart is leading the horse, and I don't mean that in an ugly way. I think this is a wonderful plan. I truly do, and I want to see it happen. But it is, it's difficult for me to not knowing what those numbers are going, or having a good idea of why we're building this school this size when, like Debbie said, and I know you all know that because you've studied that, and we have not. And it's difficult for me to not so much defend it, but to say, well, it's just simple. We've got 1,000 and something kids that we've got to house. We don't know how many kids we're going to house here and here and here. Now, you all might, and you're just like tonight with the ladies that have presented. They're awesome presentations and a wealth of knowledge. And for us to see that our academics on a whole in those two areas, we are above the state, we're above the national in almost everything. And our kids deserve facilities in which they feel safe. And we're offering the things that are available. But that's where my problem, it's not a problem, but that's where I'm foggy. I don't know how many.
That's a great point,
We're
Gene.
talking
And
about.
Jason, that was brought up at our last work session, and we're working on getting that master document together. But that was last week. Was that Thursday? Yes. Tuesday. But we're working on that document to get that together so it can be at your fingertips, so it can answer any question. But absolutely, we are working on that, and we will have that before the next board meeting. We've got all the different things. We've just got to grab it and put it in one place.
The bottom line to me is that we are behind. We're growing. We've got old buildings. No, everybody knows how old I am. I went to Chapman High School. I was at Holly Springs Montlow the first when the school was built new. I went in the 5th grade. So I got a lot of history. We all have a lot of history in this district if you lived here. But, we're behind, and I think we just all have to work together and do to the best of our ability, make the best decisions we can make as a board or our administrators. And I think everybody's working hard. We've just got to be comfortable in the decisions that we make. That's what it's all about for me.
And the whole point of this,
And Jason,
and I
I
hope
have
I'm not
100%
overstepping, but
faith
the
in
whole
you.
point of this conversation was that this is the first time that it's been in the public. Everybody's had the opportunity to come to board work sessions, but no one has. Those board work sessions are not provided or live streamed. This is the first opportunity where guests, and we have a few, have had the opportunity or chose to come and to hear about some things. So this was the point of this occurring tonight. It was not to force a vote. It was just to relay and put out an open session for everybody to hear some of the exciting things that we're trying to do. Ultimately, the timeline is on the 9 of y'all. It's not on me and it's not on Dr. Smith. The timeline's up to y'all. It is in y'all's court, and we'll let y'all dribble and shoot whenever you are ready, but we will give you the best game plan that we can give you. And if you'll give me to the next board meeting, we'll have a packet of information that you can take, that you can share, if you so feel led to do that. But as Ms. Hopper just said, I do believe that we are behind, and the longer we wait, the further we're going to get behind. And that's not my intention, nor I'm not speaking for him, nor is it Dr. Smith's intention either. We just want to do what's best. And we have the opportunity to make a huge impact. And from what we've been told, without a single dollar increase in taxes. And if we don't take an advantage of that, then I think we are falling further and further behind. But that's my unsolicited opinion. But by the next board meeting, y'all will have as much information as I can give you. Again, some of it is as we talk. I mean, I've got y'all seen it, I brought it in here. 2,000-page document about the deficiencies across our district, with Mabry Middle School being the worst.
I am very proud that this project was built around data from that study. So it's exciting, and our community is going to support it. But it is, y'all are right. We got to know, and we've got to give you as the board the information. So I do appreciate that. That's exactly right. But it's real exciting. I just vow to y'all is that we're committed to this. We're committed to working on it and having it as best we can. It won't be perfect. Nothing I do is perfect, but there's a lot of passion and hard work that goes behind it, and we will work tirelessly to do this as aggressively as you want to do it. My job is to have it to go ready for you. It's y'all's job to say when, and we respect that. And then we do listen, and we respect your wisdom, and that's why a lot of times we read tea leaves, and we're trying to read tea leaves to put together plans. Because, we're going to be very transparent to put it open in public forum. And we have nothing to hide with this. We're extremely proud of this. I don't know if I'd have said that if you'd had to have a referendum and raise taxes, but I can tell you right now, when you have a referendum at one point and you don't have to raise taxes, that's something that I think we can all celebrate, because what a blessing. What a blessing that our financial state is in such a position that we could raise up to $125 million, borrow $125 million without a tax increase. That is a blessing. That is a blessing. Because I know folks work hard, and, it's not getting easier out there. It's getting tougher out there. But I can't wait the opportunity to sell this to our community. Do y'all have any further questions for Jason?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCraw. And we just have to consider what great stewards District 1 has been of the properties, the finances, but especially the properties, the administration and maintenance. I do not feel like I'm sitting in a building older than me. And then the same goes for the schools. Our schools are always clean, well kept, well maintained, but at some point it does become a losing battle. So we thank you for that information, and we thank you for the preparation ahead. This brings us to our next item, which is an executive session. We'd consider a motion to go into executive session for the discussion of a personnel matter.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we go into executive session.
Thank you, Ms. Fowler. I second. Thank you, Mr. Skinner. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Any opposed? Thank you. It's unanimous. So we'll be in executive session. Okay, having come out of executive session, we would entertain a motion that no action was taken.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that no action was taken in executive session.
Second.
Mr. Chairman, I move we adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Cochran. We got a second. All those in favor? Raise your right hand. Thank you.